My name is Kevin Cosgrove. I am the proprietor and baker of Stone Circle Bakehouse in Holt, Michigan. Proudly to say that I have the opportunity to be a baker. I'm new at it. I've been at this for 3 years, 1 month, a couple days. And capstone here, the keystone says January 8, 2009, Stone Circle Bakehouse. And happy to be here, happy to have had this trip so far. I was in search of a name for the bakery, and I selected 5, 6, 7, 8 different names, different considerations, kind of all over the board as far as what I would consider a likely or perhaps a viable name for the bakery. And I was going through an Irish catalog, an Irish travelogue, and in that travelogue there were some references to some of the archaeological stone circle sites that you can find in North and Northwest Ireland, and I wrote that down and put it on my list of names as consideration, and it went from the last entry to the top of the list in just moments. And I honestly, I said, that's it right there, that's the name. Stone Circle Bakehouse. I wanted to bake in a very rustic fashion, a very authentic fashion. And what that entailed was building a wood-fired oven, a masonry deck oven, 18,000 pounds worth of concrete and brick to apply my skills, to learn how to bake breads. It was a rustic attempt, and the Stone Circle name suited the concept, suited the feeling. It just seemed to fit. And I glommed onto it, and there you go, Stone Circle Bakehouse. In the morning hours, Dave, of course, I get to see the sunrise. I may not see all the sunsets because I'm in bed, but I do get to see the sunrises. And as you watch the sun progress from south to north or north to south as the seasons change, I noticed as we were approaching spring, in the spring equinox, I noticed that the sun was starting to light up the face of the oven. And every day I noticed that the rays of the oven would come further and further and further up the face of this oven, until one day it dawned on me, speaking of sunrises and dawn, that on the spring equinox, this inside of this oven was going to be illuminated by the sunshine of the sunrise. And sure enough, on the day of the equinox, the morning of the equinox, in comes the sunshine, and the inside of the oven was illuminated for 5 minutes maybe, just a very short period of time. And so it came full circle, you know, it just became full circle for me. The Stone Circle Bakehouse name, the rustic appearance, the old world techniques that are employed in an oven so antiquated by today's technologies, that it all came together that particular day for me. It was a nice experience. Yeah.
I have a young man that works for me who, as most 19, 20, 25-year-olds, grew up on computer language and computers, and is very good at it. And so what he did is he wrote a program for me that converts my formulas on a daily basis. The quantity of loaves I make daily are variable, and I used to make all my conversions on a calculator by hand, and it took me about an hour and a half every day to do that. But he wrote a program for me that I can now do all that work in about 2 minutes.
That's awesome.
Once I've organized everything. So I just plug in the numbers. I've got all the formulas in there, and I just plug in the quantities that I need, and it spews out the mathematical calculations for me. Outstanding work. God bless him. So that. And that. This is the sourdough culture. tightness. Make sure you get it all. And then we just pour it right in there. Everything's done by weight. So now we can ensure consistent results. This goes right in here. This is the red flour stands for this. Simple rag. So we're going to give this a 3-minute mix. So we're going to let it rest for about 15 or 20 minutes. Save a gallon of water, total water requirements. It has a slapping kind of chewing sound when it's really mixing up well, and that'll be a little while. You can let this hydrate slowly. It's called autolyse, where you let the water penetrate the starch molecules, and it hydrates them thoroughly. Slowly migrates like it's permeable to a dry soil, water into a dry soil.
Yeah.
Same difference here, but it's going into a dry starch. So I'm going to shut that off and just let it sit like that for, until 3 o'clock. You let it sit an hour if you want to. I generally don't have that much time to wait around. But it gives me time to then work on something else, which is what I'm going to do now.
You do work with all the doughs differently. You work with them, that's right. You don't work it so much as with it, if that makes sense. You give it what it needs, and it always needs something. It asks for a little more water, a little less water. It asks for a little more time, a lot less time. It asks to go into the oven right now or hold off for a while. But you learn those things empirically. You learn them as you spend time with them, as you work with it. You learn to recognize the stages of development that it's in at any given time.
Okay, so that was first speed mixing. What first speed mixing does is brings all your material together in a cohesive mess. Now I'm going to develop the gluten on second speed, and that's a faster rotation. That's to strengthen the dough with a great tension. I can also check at this time to see whether or not I'm happy with the hydration levels. I can tell by looking at it that it gets this skirting, or tweaking that you see develop. It kind of starts to stretch out like this a little bit. And that's a pretty good indication to me that this dough is hydrated just about right. I like it a little bit wetter, so in about a minute or so I'm going to add just maybe 4, 5, 6 ounces of water to it, just to loosen it up a little bit. See that bleeding that takes place there?
Yeah. That would be so difficult to do that by hand.
Oh, yeah. People do it though. I mean, they have big troughs, and they just move through it. But it would take a real labor of love, I assure you.
Yeah.
Not a hard work. Baking's a hard job. This helps. Now intuition takes over, or what they call empirical knowledge, where you learn by doing, by seeing and understanding, and I know what I want. And I want it just a little bit looser. So, it doesn't matter now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Just that little bit.
Yeah. I'll probably do that again. That's nice. See that?
Wow. It's very elastic.
Yeah, exactly. Those are exact words. Very elastic. Very plastic. And one of the reasons why it's so elastic is because of the auto release that we gave it, that resting period that lets that water permeate those starch molecules. If you hadn't given it that, what you try to do then is just force it into the starch and it resists it. This way it just permeates it slowly. Then you mix it up and you've got a real nice hydration level that way because of it. What we're going to do here is put that dough here. Now since you're here, I can use your muscles.
Yes.
So, put your hands on that handle. 1, 2, 3. Up. And that's how you do that. That is 45 loaves.
45 loaves.
48 loaves.
Oh my gosh.
8 raised. Sourdough. See that? Some of that's just captured fermentation there. There you go. So what we do with this, we retard it overnight. So from that time, ferment for 2 hours. That temperature, room temperature. And then the cooler goes, put it in your cooler, and you store it. Bring the temperature down. It doesn't stop the process, but it retards it substantially. is good to know. In the summertime, when it's 95 degrees in here, this dough is 73 degrees, and my target, not 72, and my target was 72, 72.9, so we're pretty close, 72.8, oh, 72.6. So we're dead on, and that's because I know the variables. I worked with the variables enough to know what I need to do to get it to the temperature that I want it, and temperature is very important. Everything does double duty in a bakery, everything. Flour and storage bins are also on the table. And the cleaner I get this, the less washing I have to do. That's important. That perhaps is the most important detail in the bakery. Because if these things sit around, they get crusty. When they get crusty, they get harder than hell to clean. And it's ugly.
And you speak of the intangibles, the things you can't control. I can't control the temperature of the bakery necessarily. I can't control the temperature of the water coming in, which is not true. I can, but you know, you work with the things, the intangibles. Yeah, they're all tangible. They're all controllable in some respect. In the summertime, when the bakery is 95 degrees, you need a lot of ice and a lot of ice water to cool things down so that they don't bubble up and bubble over and become too aggressive too quickly. And those things you learn as you make mistakes, and you learn to, and every day if you're paying attention, there's a lesson. So every day you're looking and mentally processing something away for another day. And that day always arises and you say, I've been here before. I think this is what I need to do, or I like the way this looks, or I don't like it. It needs another minute. It needs no more time. And some people ask you if there's any art in baking, and you would say no, there isn't. It is a craft that is produced from the right brain. You know, the artistic side of one's brain. The aesthetic that goes into perhaps making a portrait or an image, or you know, any kind of sculpture, or you know, landscape art, whatever you might be doing, isn't too dissimilar to the results that you seek in the breads that are crafted properly, in the way they bloom in the oven, they open up in the oven, and the ears of the cuts that you put into the loaves open up, and they bring just that final look, that very powerful, rustic, polished at the same time look to a loaf of bread. And that's the artistic side of the craft, absolutely. But it is a craft all the same, and it's all about handwork, and it's all about rolling up your sleeves and getting right into it, which is it's an intimate craft, and it's a tactile craft. If you don't work with the dough, if you don't honor what it is and what it needs, it will fail you every single time, every time. You can't cheat it, you can't cheat time, and you can't cheat the doughs. They need what they need, and you need to give it to them. And there's no pun intended with the word need. Life is that way. You can't force it. You can try to. You can exert your will if you're so fit. But sooner or later, I found from my experiences is that when you try to power your way through a situation or a scenario or a craft or whatever it is, if you try to power your way through it, something generally pops out somewhere and gets away from you. And this is no different than anything else. You need to stay with it. You need to work with it. Like I said, you need to give it the time that it requires, the attention that it requires, the touch. Yeah, it's handwork when you shape a loaf. It's something that you do day in and day out endlessly, and every day is different, and the doughs change, their hydration levels change on a daily basis, and the way you touch it changes. You know, some days you have to go with it very gently, and some days you have to be a bit more aggressive with the doughs to get them where they need and you want them to be and where they can be. You know, part of the baking process is the cooling process. It's when you open the oven, you take the loaves that are there, they're ready to come out now. They're baked, they're fully baked, and onto the shelf they go. If you handle them too quickly, if you don't give them time to cool, you can ruin a loaf just as easily as if you never put it in the oven. And I think that speaks to what you're talking about, the cycle of hot and cold in anything. You know, the oven's too hot, you need to cool it. The oven's too cool, you need to do something else. You need to, you know, get some more wood in the thing and keep it going for a little while longer, or rake all the coal forward because the oven's too hot. I know from experience then what time it is. It's going to be too hot at 4 o'clock in the morning for me to use, so I need to do something now so I can use it then. So you learn those things. You speak of synergy. It's a synergy. It's a relationship. It's if you're paying attention, and you're lucky, and you notice. You know, if all those things come together for you, you got a shot at getting something out of that oven that people will enjoy, and that's what we do. Give it a shot every day. Hopefully, we can satisfy some customers. They're called Roman ovens, and that's not by accident. They're from the Roman days, you know. It's a 2,500-year-old, 3,000-year-old model of an oven that's been around just that long, and bread's been baked this long or that long this way. And you know, the technology of all the modern deck ovens and the cyclotronic ovens and the gas-fired ovens, the electric ovens, all that's new. It really is a technology of 150 years of age or whatever. You know, however long it's been around, but this is the way it's done for the longest time. There's an affinity between fire and wood and bread and dough, and that works very well together. It certainly is not the only way you can get the job done, obviously, but it's the way I chose to do it. I wanted to learn to bake in the most authentic way possible, the most rustic way. My wife will say something. She'll say, "I'm the kind of fella that will plant the seed, to grow the tree, to cut the tree, to chop the wood, to split the wood, to fire the oven that I built in the first place, as well as harvest the grain from the seeds that I planted as well." And it is a process by which I like to experience all elements of the development of the loaf. One might ask if it's a lot of work doing it that way, and my answer would be without hesitation, yes. It's a ton of work, but I think it gives a product that is worth it. You know, I think it's worth the work. You've asked me at the end of the day, was it all worth it? And I think the answer was, you know, how do you rate your day's success? You know, what's important? And at least in this instance, what's important that I was able to pull enough decent loaves out of the oven onto the shelves of retailers and restaurateurs and dorms at MSU and get them in enough hands to satisfy, hopefully, enough people that they will place an order for the next day. And so at the end of the day, was it worth it? Absolutely, it's worth it. What's enough? You know, I think you spoke of that once before, or do you look to expand your business, to grow your business, you know, and it's, you know, by what standard do you rate growth? You know, I pondered that question for a minute, and you know, I look to grow my abilities at doing what I do. That's what's important. That's where I'm looking for growth, is to continue to try to improve and enhance my craft as often and as much as I possibly can. So, yeah, it's an honest product. You know, it is what it is. It's a loaf of bread. But it's an honest loaf of bread. You know, my tagline is this is the bread. This is the way bread once tasted. Try it. This is the way bread once tasted. Try it, because this is the honesty element. It's because it is the real deal. It's the real McCoy. It's the time-honored product that we may have, as a culture, moved away from quite some time ago, but are coming back to. And this is nothing new. It's been going on since the 70s and 80s and 90s in earnest, and I'm just happy to be part of it. Just happy.